This is Launching Your Daughter podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. Now, here is today's episode. This is episode 17. Welcome. In today's episode, I want to explore creating rituals around your daughter preparing to graduate high school this year and going off to college next year or just moving out of the family home. Before I talk about creating rituals around transitions, I want to say thank you to all of my listeners. I am grateful and amazed at how many downloads this podcast is getting since I began it in May. The more people that subscribe on iTunes or share it through social media, the more this information can reach those who may not have access to services or are looking for support. So thank you from the bottom of my heart in listening and passing this information on. At the time of this recording, high schools and colleges are beginning again. This can be both an exciting and nervous time for both teen girls and their parents. If this is her first year at college, I will be sharing some ideas to support her and you, the parents, in this change. There are various rituals all over the world that acknowledge, celebrate, or reflect life transitions. Sometimes this is called rites of passage. There are graduation ceremonies and open house parties for when your teenage daughter graduates high school. We have funeral services to celebrate and remember those we love. We have rituals around the change in seasons. But one area that I notice seems to be needing a little help is creating a ritual within the family system to help the transition from high school to college or into young adulthood. This is a time for both you and your daughter where you may be excited and nervous about the upcoming changes. You may also feel sadness and loss, which is normal because one chapter in life is closing and another one is opening. Sometimes the sadness gets overlooked, or it may come out as anger. Transitions are about personal development. They also involve grieving, maybe of what you had, of some expectations that may not have occurred, or you're moving forward into what is to come. I'm going to talk a little bit about William Bridges' book, Transitions, and talk a little bit about just transitions themselves before I go on to some things that you can do for your family. In his book, Transitions, he states that it involves an ending, a neutral zone, and a new beginning. During the ending phase, there are 4 different stages. There's disengagement, disidentification, disenchantment, and disorientation. In disengagement, he says, quote, "We find ourselves periodically beginning to disengage, either willingly or unwillingly, from the activities, the relationships, the settings, or the roles that have been important to us." Then in disidentification, he says, quote, "In breaking the old connections to the world, the person loses way of self-definition. Most people in transition have the experience of not being quite sure who they are anymore," end quote. In Disenchanted, he says, quote, "But there is still the reality in that person's head, a picture of the way things are, which ties the person to the old world with subtle strands of assumptions and expectations," end quote. So for example, sometimes parents, they lie for fear of being imperfect, friends let you down, etc. He also goes on to say, quote, "Many significant transitions not only involve disenchantment, they begin with it," end quote. The last part of the ending phase is disorientation. In this phase, he states, quote, "One of the first and most serious casualties of disorientation is our sense of and plans for the future," end quote. He states this part, quote, "affects not only our sense of space, but our sense of time as well," end quote. And I think that happens definitely for the rites of passage for teen girls when they're getting ready to leave high school, going on to college, or leaving the family home. This can also happen for you parents out there, where again, this sense of loss because your daughter is moving out. But I don't want you to fear just yet. We're going to talk some more about kind of the normalcy of this and why it happens the way it does. In the neutral zone, he says it's, quote, "a temporary state of loss," end quote. This is the place where here you really need to surrender. And he talks about it in a way where he says, quote, "The person must give into the emptiness and stop struggling to escape it," end quote. Now, I know most people, when they come into my office, they do not want to feel that emptiness. They don't want to feel the uncomfortableness or the pain that sometimes is involved in it. It's emotional pain. It's remembering, though, this is a temporary state. It's not a forever. He says this phase, you really need to go inward. You need to allow yourself to have some alone time, maybe write your autobiography where you're really kind of going back through your life history and exploring about where you've been, what you've done, what's important to you, what is not, writing about what it is you want in your life. And he even put in here, maybe explore what would be unlived if your life had ended today. So all these things can be explored in this quietness, this sense of loss. I suggest quiet time to my clients often so that they can continue to explore more of who they are versus what they think they need to be when they're in this state. Finally, he talks about making a beginning. Quote, "The lesson in all such experience is that when we are ready to make a beginning, we will shortly find an opportunity. The transition process involves an inner realignment and a renewal of energy, both of which depend on immersion in the chaos of the neutral zone." So maybe you have a dream. Maybe you connect with somebody's comment that they had stated to you that speaks something to about what it is you're trying to go towards or move towards. Or maybe that's an image comes up during this phase. And so those are now the moments in your life where you start to kind of take steps towards that new reality. Bridges states, quote, "Genuine beginnings depend upon this kind of inner realignment rather than on external shifts. For when we realign with deep longings, we become powerfully motivated," end quote. So as your daughter is getting ready to graduate high school or move out of the house, here are some ideas of maybe some rituals that you could create before she leaves. Some ways to help either you and her move forward in the sadness and excitement is just talking about it with one another. Share your memories of the times that made you laugh, your hopes maybe you had for your daughter. Ask what she is hoping for and what she will miss when she's done with high school and moves out. Create a plan around having some quiet time to reminisce or share favorite family meals together. Go out to her favorite restaurant or dessert place. Watch family movies together. When I was growing up, we'd watch those, I think they were the 8mm tapes of family gatherings, and then finally, technology improved and we had the video cameras, so we got to use the VCR tapes, which, yes, I know there's no longer VCR players anymore. They've stopped making them. It can be quite entertaining to watch those past moments and help create a deeper family connection. Ask her what she would like to do prior to moving out. So much of this process is about slowing down and truly speaking and listening to one another. Also, remind and encourage your daughter to stay in contact with her current high school friends when she leaves for college. Some of my teen clients that I work with, they think they have to establish all new relationships once they leave for college and don't think they are allowed to maintain their current relationships. Yes, those relationships can change over time, but they don't need to end the friendship right when they leave high school. Parents, I want you to remember to keep having date nights and spending time with other adult friends without your children. Go back to episode 10 with Rebecca Wong and when she talked about the importance of play for all the parenting couples out there. This is also just a time of letting go. And in episode 7, Charlotte Easley shared her work with using horses and how they help mothers letting go and embrace where they are at that moment. Letting go of who you used to be and embrace the new you as your daughter moves on with her life. Remember, she's not doing this to you. This truly is her rite of passage. It's the next step in her journey. You have raised her, you've supported her, you've disagreed with her, and you've loved her in the best ways you knew how. Now it is time for her to continue to branch out and spread her wings. Bridges states, quote, "The ending of childhood is one part of the shift from life's morning or dependency to life's noon or independence. A second part of that shift involves establishing a separate identity distinct from that of so-and-so's child," end quote. During the school holidays or breaks, stop and when you guys get back together, reflect and explore what's working and what isn't with her. Find out if she's needing or wanting anything different from you or her support system, whether it's there at home or there on the campus or wherever she is living. Continue to encourage and support her in her journey into young adulthood. Actively listen to her. You do not need to fix or do anything as she shares her experiences unless she's asking for advice. I will have a future episode on being present and listening and what I'm meaning by active listening, which is just pausing and reflecting. Also, during this time, self-care is really important during transition, not only for you parents, but for your daughter too. It's remembering to take that downtime and slow things down. Take walks, make sure you're eating nutritionally, exercising, taking care of yourself during this phase. Allow yourself to continue to explore or be curious on the other side of that change. There is an ending and a new beginning. As a therapist, I have had the privilege of witnessing some pretty awesome family moments regarding creating rituals that fit for that specific family. Some just need a nudge to say it is okay to actually do this, and sharing your feelings about the changes can be a healthy process. You continue to role model to your daughter you too have feelings about this transition and supporting her in her journey. If you need more support, I encourage you to seek counseling. And if you're in the state of Indiana, I offer both office and online or phone counseling. The book itself, Transitions, I would recommend for not only for your teen girl, but really for parents. If your daughter's in her 20s or 30s, if you've got major job changes, graduating college, this book can really be helpful. It's got a lot more depth to it than what I did. I just gave some quick overview of what Transitions is. But just how to really dive fully into that and not be afraid of feeling kind of like, I don't know who I am right now in this moment. It's normal and it's natural. Continue to take care of yourself. And again, thank you so much for listening and sharing this podcast with those that you know. Take care. Thank you for listening to Launching Your Daughter with Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist. For more information or to stay up to date, go to launchingyourdaughter.com. You can sign up for my email list or join my Facebook group. Thank you.